What is going on today, everyone? So today I have a guest on the show. His name is Fabio Giorno, and he is a big-time mega LAES SealsQ investor. He holds over 22,000 shares, and he's also a moderator of the subreddit on Reddit for the LAES community. So I'm bringing him on because I want to hear what he thinks of this quantum cybersecurity stock. I want to hear his perspective and just learn more from him. So let's jump right in. Hey, Fabio. Hope I didn't butcher your name.
What's going on?
I'm not Italian.
You're good, buddy.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, Majid. It's a pleasure to be here. Hi, everybody on YouTube. What's going on? So, yeah, just as Majid said, I do moderate the subreddit for the SealsQ community. So, shout out to all the members that have gone through the kind of the ups and downs, keeping everybody motivated. And it's just been a heck of a journey, just like any investment journey.
Heck yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, what's your background and what got you interested in LAES and SealsQ?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually don't have much of an investment background. I'm an entrepreneur by trade. So I work in the education field as a private tutor / consultant for kids in Toronto. I've been doing that since I was 19. I'm 35 now, so 16 years. And I work primarily with kids that struggle in school with their learning disabilities and their conditions. So you're talking about autism, the spectrum of autism, Asperger's, depression, anxiety, dyslexia, issues from cerebral palsy, you name it, I've done it.
Gotcha. Okay. So, and you said you started looking at quantum computer stocks and specifically SealsQ in about November of last year, around the time that Google Willow came out. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, for sure. So, when the announcement of Google Willow came out, I actually am a swing trader by like my investment background. I'll just briefly talk about that, and we'll talk about the quantum stuff. So, started investing during the COVID era, just because a lot of my revenue from work got slashed. So I ended up taking it upon myself to, learn about investing, and I did so successfully. So I started from a zero account, and I was able to, over the last 5 years, generate it to a 6-figure account, which I'm really happy about. And my goal now is to hopefully generate enough of a, let's say, profit on my SealsQ position, so that I can happily retire myself, my wife. I have a 2-year-old son, and definitely help my in-laws and my parents as well.
Okay, so tell me. So you basically started with almost nothing
Yes.
when it comes to the investment game. So what did you do to build up your portfolio, and ultimately you've landed here? Kind of it sounds like, am I correct in saying that LAES is your biggest position?
As of right now, it is my biggest position. So to kind of briefly talk about my journey, I would do a lot of due diligence on different companies that I felt at the time, relative to their year, actually, that I wanted to invest in. So 2020, a lot of the successful investments that I was into were in the travel stocks. So I made a lot of my money on Air Canada, American Airlines, Norwegian Cruise Lines, Tesla, a little bit of Tesla, a little bit of NVIDIA, AMD. In 2021, obviously, there was the craze. So a lot of the semiconductor stocks, again, NVIDIA, AMD, I got back into Tesla a little bit. So I kind of do a little bit of a mixture of long-term investments and a little bit of swing trading. I actually, in 2021, we had the craze of the weed stocks and all of like the CBD supplements. So a lot of the money that I made there were on, some speculative penny stocks. And I just figured that one of the things that I could do is just kind of see what kind of return I would get. One of my greatest 2x stories was when Guru Organic Energy Drink went IPO. I think I bought in around like $8.25. I got to confirm that number, but I ended up selling the position at like $18.65, which was fantastic.
Very nice. Very nice.
So that was an awesome position for me. 2022 was really rough as a bear market. I know a lot of people lost money, so I just decided to hold everything through it. 2023 was really good. 2024 was really good. And now, because of that journey, I can now say that I comfortably own over 22,000 shares spread across 3 different investment accounts, with one of those accounts holding a healthy 13K.
Yeah, and I've talked to you. So you first reached out to me through my website. I think you found me on YouTube and introduced
Yes.
yourself, and we've been talking since that point. And for sure, your conviction in LAES definitely piqued my interest. It's always nice to talk to investors that have a lot of conviction, especially single stock conviction. So specifically with LAES, can you kind of, just for our audience, if they haven't heard of LAES, or maybe they vaguely know what it is, can you kind of give the elevator speech? Like, you've got 20
Sure.
floors to convince me to invest in LAES. Go.
Alrighty. So LAES is actually a spinoff of their parent company, WiseKey, both listed on the NASDAQ. WiseKey is located in Switzerland. LAES is actually headquartered in France. And what they're trying to achieve is they're trying to equip not only the Swiss Army, but other major technologies like smart meters, and hopefully one day the US military, with post-quantum cryptography ready, resilient chips. And one of the things about them that makes them so unique is that their MS 7001 chip is the most quantum ready resistant chip on the market. Nothing comes anywhere close. And when we hear about cryptography, a lot of the things that people talk about right now are this idea about keys. And so when you think about encryption, we're talking about keys that can hack your data. So we're looking at like your data on Facebook, your data on Google, your data all over the globe. Obviously, we've seen recently that Google and IBM, the 16 billion hacks, that was unprecedented, and that's a little bit scary to think about. So imagine when that gets to scale at like the quantum level, when a lot of these vulnerabilities have not even been addressed yet. So LAES stands out to me because they're definitely more of a hardware play than a software play, even though they have both technologies available.
So what does it mean to have hardware that's quantum resistant?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because when we think about quantum resistant, a lot of the attacks from hackers usually come from in the form of algorithms. So hardware has not really been implemented fully into a lot of the systems that we know. There's not a lot of I want to say there's not a lot of implementation, in the sense that no one really knows what LAES does. And this is why I kind of like, I'm so deeply convicted on the stock, because I call it the sleeping giant. I have since November. And I truly believe, regardless of where the price is, it's going to get back to double digits very soon. And one of the things that I think you and I briefly talked about too, Majid, is that if ARQQ as a company can get to where it is in terms of the stock price, once smart investors figure out what LAES is all about, the story's going to write itself. The rocket ship's gone.
So let's talk about ARQQ Quantum, because ARQQ Quantum, since their partnership with Oracle. So if you're talking about, so there's a couple things that have happened in the market in just the past 2 weeks. Oracle reported earnings, and Oracle crushed on their cloud earnings, right?
That's right.
So all of a sudden, people are like, holy crap, Oracle, got to buy Oracle. And Oracle's been on this run. It's been pushing up considerably. And then we saw that ARQQ Quantum was named in their partner. They have this, I'm forgetting the exact name, but essentially ARQQ Quantum is a partner now with Oracle, and Oracle has this huge network of sales and advertising. And I'll just have to look it up after the video, but ARQQ Quantum is kind of in a similar space as SealsQ, right? And
sure,
people have been piling in. We've seen ARQQ jump 400% since April. And even in the last month, like over 100%, pretty crazy. So what makes ARQQ different from, and I know that you specialize in SealsQ, but I'm just curious, like, what are similarities between these companies and what are differences?
Well, it's interesting you say that, right? So I've done a little bit of due diligence on ARQQ in particular, and I've noticed that they like to focus, again, their products are decent in terms of what they could offer in terms of encryption, but post-quantum ready, I'm not 1,000% convinced. I think they're more probably stronger on the software side than they are on the hardware side. again, I need to do a little bit
Sure.
more deeper due diligence myself. So I can only speak on that. I don't want to kind of talk about something and then make myself look like a fool on the internet, because we know how that happens.
I
right?
do it every day, so
Fair enough. Yeah. So
That's
I
my
get you.
favorite hobby.
But what I will say, just from like a trading perspective and from a technical perspective, because I watch these stocks day in and day out, man, every morning, and regardless of what the earnings look like, even though ARQQ as a stock kind of dipped, it had a really, really solid run. And like a lot of the liquidity grabs, it was just like, okay, institutions have to be buying this. This isn't just a normal stock that's trading on fundamentals. I know volume's kind of like iffy some days, but realistically, the last week or two has just been absolutely mental. And I think this is just the start of the momentum and the hype.
So would it be accurate to say that ARKit, if it was a family, that LAES and ARQQ are in the same family, even if they're cousins, they're not the exact same type of thing. But I saw sort of, just as I learn about these companies, and I have many different equities and many different quantum investments, so I'm still learning about SealsQ and LAES. But what would you say, because right now it's at a $4 price point, right?
Right.
And ARKit Quantum is at a $41 price point.
Right.
So what would you say makes LAES currently undervalued?
I mean, people just haven't discovered the stock yet. And I think one of the things that a lot of, I would even argue, Wall Street is not recognizing is, sure, you could look at EPS, you could look at negative revenue, but that was obviously factored in with the last earnings call that I listened into. And, again, there's no other product on the market. So all we really realistically need are just two major catalysts: show profitability in terms of net income, higher revenue, year over year, quarter over quarter, maybe not, but year over year, definitely. And if we get a contract, even one contract with the US, it's over. My personal conviction is that the reason it's undervalued right now is again, I'm going to go back to my thesis about the sleeping giant. It is not discovered. Not a lot of people know about it. And when it does take off, it's going to take off. My personal opinion right now is that it should not be a single digit stock at all. It is not penny stock worthy. It is at least double digits worthy.
Okay. So what is your price target for LAES in 2025 and beyond?
Sure. End of 2025, I could see this going between 50 to $100 easily.
By the end of this year?
By the end of this year.
What would make the stock, because it's $4 right now, so that would be at 20x, right? From here. So what would make it go 20x?
Well, again, it's the discovery of the technology and the implementation of it, because there's a lot of fear about Bitcoin getting hacked, Solana getting hacked, Ethereum getting hacked, and there's a lot of vulnerabilities that they're scaring the crap out of people that are working in the crypto space. So if crypto adopts this and the US government really starts to take this more seriously and adopt the best hardware on the market, hands down, this thing is going to fly.
So tell me more about the hardware. So they have, so if a company, like, let's just pick a US company, let's say Apple wants to retrofit their systems to be quantum resistant, would they go to ARKit? Would they go to LAES? Would they go to SealsQ? Or would they do it themselves? Or what is their market?
That's a great question, man. I truly think that Apple doesn't have the focus that it needs to look at PQC at all. I think you go with whatever.
Hold on, for the viewers, PQC, can you tell them what PQC is?
Yeah, sorry, let me elaborate on that. So PQC is post-quantum cryptography. And it comes in two different forms. So there's the first form is dilithium, which is a little bit slower. And then the crazy one is the Kyber, which is in the form of a key. And that is like crazy fast. So when I'm talking fast, dilithium, old generation dilithium used to operate in terms of encryption, decryption, and speed about 1,500 milliseconds. Now that's been significantly reduced to about under 200. And Kyber used to be 250 relative to under 100 now. And so when we think even about, just really quickly, Majid, when we think about quantum attacks and what they could look like, I just want to kind of debunk this right now. It's not what they look like, it's the speed at which they can operate in. And when that happens at scale, it's a little bit scary. So, we think about when you get a text message, right? The 6-digit code to, let's say, your brokerage, or you need to do a verification. Well, that takes time, right? And that can take time in the form of seconds. So if a hacker is able to intercept that code and be able to implement it and get into your systems at speed, and that happens at scale, you can kiss your Bitcoin goodbye, your Ethereum goodbye, your investments goodbye. Everything's going to get shot.
Wow.
It's crazy to think about, man.
That paints a pretty scary picture. So we also saw that Google Quantum AI, I don't know if you saw this article, but they released new findings that to hack RSA encryption, you need less than 1 million noisy qubits.
That's right.
And before, the thinking was it was going to be 20 million. So that's a 20x reduction because the algorithms themselves are improving.
For sure.
So the quantum computers themselves are slowly improving, and also the algorithms that operate the quantum machines are improving as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we don't understand right now is that we think that a quantum attack is going to come from a hardware, from a quantum computer. It's not. It's going to come from an algorithm, and it's going to happen regardless of the amount of qubits. So what's interesting, Majid, is I actually am pretty deeply connected to some people that are in the PQC space. And one of the things that my friend Ian, he has told me is that he thinks it's going to happen probably by Q3, where we're going to see like the first quantum attack happen. And he thinks it's going to come from an emulated source, not from a quantum computer. And it's interesting because I'm just going to quickly speak on like the crypto wallets. So there's an equation. I don't know if you know this. I believe the equation that you have to solve in order to break Bitcoin is y squared is equal to x cubed plus 7. So when I put it into Grok to find out what the answer to that equation was, it's any number or any integer that is greater than or equal to the integer of -7. So if you think -7 to infinity, that's a lot of numbers for a classical computer to compute, right? So it's probably not going to happen from a classical computer, but imagine that it happens at scale with the speed of a quantum computer.
Great. So where my mind goes with all of this is we have this sort of tech revolution happening. We have the artificial intelligence, the rapid advance of artificial intelligence. And you can see even through ChatGPT, OpenAI as a case study, the exponential acceleration of artificial intelligence. We also are seeing that many of the major quantum players, both private and public, are accelerating their quantum roadmaps. So they've moved up the dates, even in 2025. And we've seen NVIDIA and Jensen Huang completely do a 180 on quantum and its near-term commercial viability. So with all of that being said, it's my personal thesis and my personal reason for investing in companies like ARQQ Quantum and SealsQ is with the rise of these quantum computers and they're becoming more and more powerful, companies are going to need to get quantum ready and quantum safe. And even from an insurance and liability perspective, insurance companies are going to say, you're not quantum safe, we're dropping you. We don't want this surface, right? So it's a really interesting field to be in. And I was just kind of thinking out loud there. But tell me, I do have this question about SealsQ and their business pillars. So we've talked about hardware. What else do they do? And what makes them an interesting company to invest in beyond the hardware?
Sure. So obviously they've got their hardware chips, but they've also got their software deployed in smart meters across the UK. They've got a very close knit relationship with the Swiss Army, which not a lot of people know about. They're very secretive. They do a lot of covert stuff. And one of the things that they're doing with their satellites, particularly with the post quantum cryptography um, adaptation in their satellites, is they're able to target wherever their soldiers are going, whenever, regardless of the missions, that which is integral because if you're using like waves or sonar, so say for example you have a soldier that gets lost in a cave or in an area where you can't necessarily track them, you will be able to see them and to another thing as well is that what a lot of people don't talk about is like their I believe it's in their radios. I have a friend that's part of the Canadian military, and he actually told me about this. So military radios and like communications, they're always encrypted and they always need to get updated every couple of weeks. So the post-quantum cryptography can actually prevent any sort of interception by an external force. So let's say, for example, let's say, I don't know, something goes bad with China or Russia and they try to get surveillance on the Swiss or even on the US, right? If they can intercept any type of communication, right, that could be bad news. In addition to that, one thing we're not really talking about as well, and Carlos actually talked about this on the earnings call, is that airports have not adopted PQC. That's a major issue because how are they supposed to get these airplanes to be able to land safely at the airports, let alone what if these airplanes get intercepted for whatever reason? And another thing that we're not talking about, Majid, is drones. With the rise of drones happening, those need to be PQC safe. If those drones get hacked, buddy, we're talking about major turning of events in wartime situations.
Interesting. So there's a lot going on this front, and
Yep.
SealsQ finds itself as one of the only players in this space, but it seems like a space that a lot of tech companies, especially, but really any enterprise or government, they should be thinking about, because we saw just recently the G7 and the world leaders basically laying out their roadmap and their quantum plan. When you have all the G7 agreeing on anything, that's
Yes.
kind of a wake up call that this is coming and this is happening. So for LAES, if you had to, since you're what I would consider a super investor, you're overweight in one
Sure.
name, and you say people haven't found out about it, and I personally covered the stock a few times, and the last time I covered it specifically, I did notice that video got a lot of interest. So there is interest in this stock specifically, but why do you think people don't know about it, and why do you think that's going to change?
Good question. Well, first off, I just want to thank you for taking the time and dedication to actually dedicating it to the stock in this space. It's really, really important. I think to answer your question, I think what needs to happen is there's really a lack of awareness, not only just in for like SealsQ, but in the quantum space in general. And I think like the more education that we can bring to the retail investors and people that are kind of interested in the ticker, when we can kind of simplify it in a way where, let's say, the modern individual or the average individual does not understand physics, does not understand what PQC means, and if we can really just explain it to them like they're five, we can help them with their due diligence and we can help them with their research. And hopefully, the effort would be that people need to recognize that this is a play that I think personally is going to make a lot of people very wealthy. We're also a very small community on Reddit. We started off with probably less than 500 members. And within the last 6 months, we've jumped to over 2.1. We're very heavily invested together as a family. My job is to make sure I bring the news to our people and then they can make whatever they want of it. And I think what's really important as well is that it does have a little bit of a cult behind it, for sure.
Do you want to say anything specifically to the community over on Reddit? And of course, I'll leave the link on the screen. So if people do want to join that community, they
Sure.
can, even if they just want to learn more or follow along with the story of this stock.
Well, I just want to give a shout out to everybody that's been a contributor. I've been in DMs with a lot of the other members. I actually have been in DMs with one member in particular. I'm not going to reveal him, but he has been invested in the stock since less than $1. and he is a Swiss citizen, and he is very deeply convicted, and there's more of this cautious optimism, I would call it, rather than more of an aggressive optimism that I have. But
I like that aggressive optimism.
Aggressive. Yeah, thanks. I think we're a really, really cool bunch. We joke around a lot. We have a great time. We're in it together. We're a very tight knit family. And shout out to the other moderators too. They do such a good job in making sure that Reddit thread stays clean. So I love all those guys, and I wish us all the best.
So two final questions as we kind of come to the end of this. So IC Alps, SealsQ acquired IC Alps, and
Yes.
and I've reported on it. I read about it. It seemed like a big deal, but I don't know much more about it than that. What is the significance of that acquisition?
It's a great question. So the reason they acquired AC Alps is because they needed a larger team to scale what they were trying to do. Because with the current team that they had, I think they had less than like 60 employees. And I think as a company, if you want to grow at scale, you need to make sure you have the team that is at scale. So IC Alps, what a great acquisition that was. It's just going to make the whole process of getting the satellites ready, getting the chips and the software and the algorithms more updated a lot faster so that they can meet their goals. And I think the team knew this. And what I've loved about them is that even though sometimes they do keep us in the dark, this is going to sound a little taboo, but they don't reveal everything. But on the earnings call, they're very transparent about why their revenue goes down or what their roadmap is going to look like, and why people need to look at this now and not wait until it's too late, because when that hack happens, it will be too late. And then I personally think we're just going to see an unbelievably explosive movement. I think it'll move like a meme stock, to be honest with you.
I think it's possible as well, because people tend to be late to the party on these type of things. So last question, you definitely have strong conviction in this stock. If there's an investor that's interested in learning more, and I'm going to give you, it's a two-part question. So if they're interested in learning more, where do you suggest they go? And also, what is your final pitch about SealsQ and why you think it's worth looking at as far as an investment?
Yeah, sure. So I would obviously, I'm going to shameless plug, but come to the Reddit, because all the news that gets posted, it's condensed into that specific area. And what's great about it is that you get feedback from our users in real time. People are very good with their comments. We try to keep things open. We try to keep trolling to a bare minimum. And there's going to be some clash, and that's totally fun, and I'm not against it. But I think the most important thing, what they need to do is, like, if they don't know where to come, we do try to keep our subreddit as informative as possible. And I think that's the beauty of it. Global news wires are usually a pretty good source. I know that sites like TipRanks, and Seeking Alpha have recently started to shift their sentiment towards SealsQ, which is really nice. I think as well, to kind of end off with the second part of your question, I think what people need to do is, obviously, just like any investor, you do your own due diligence, but
Agreed.
You got to fall in love with the company, right? And a lot of the success stories that we've seen on YouTube, and I know you're a big fan of Amit. I'm on his channel like all the time, and one of the reasons why he was so successful is he had that same deep conviction in Robinhood and Palantir, which changed his life. And I share that same sentiment. So I truly think you got to fall in love with the company. You got to fall in love with the leadership, because I'll tell you, their board of directors is unbelievable. Their leadership is incredible. And at the end of the day, you want to be in companies that are going to be leaders and that are led by great people. And I truly think what I've seen, and how Carlos has spoken, how Mark Minovich has spoken. Mark, I can actually call a friend, which is incredible. And even the videos that I see where they've showed quantum days and times where they bond and they relax and they do fun things together as a team. It's such a beautiful thing to see. So I think that's really important, that they keep showing the public that we're a company that works hard, but we also know how to have a lot of fun. And we're taking this very seriously.
Awesome. Well said. So, Fabio, where can people find you if they want to follow you or connect with you?
Sure. So they can follow me on X. So my tag is Fab AI Quantum Edge.
I'll put it up on the screen as well, so don't worry about that.
Thank you.
Yep.
And they can also find me on YouTube under the same tag. And I'm going to be making content very soon, and Majid, this could be pretty cool. Like if we can kind of collaborate again in the future. Looking forward to it, man.
Thanks so much, Fabio. Thanks for coming on the show. And
Thank
it was
you.
a pleasure to have you on. So that was Fabio Giorno, and he is a super investor in SealsQ and LAES. And it was fascinating to have this conversation. I hope you took a lot of value from this. I sure did. If you like content like this, please consider leaving a like or subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.